left Christians subject to intense persecution and even genocide.
Of that tragic period between 1915 and 1923 constitute genocide. Do you have any different view on the subject now than you did as a U.S. Senator?
Well, Congressman, you quoted something that I said in response to a question about France trying to criminalize speech about this terrible event in history. And I do think criminalizing speech is a dangerous path to go down. And in fact, as I understand it, the French courts just declared that law unconstitutional under the French Constitution. So let me be very clear. The United States recognizes the events of 1915 as one of the worst atrocities of the 20th century. And every April 24th, the President honors the victims and expresses American solidarity with the Armenian people. And the President has said in his Remembrance Day statements that the achievement of a full, frank, and just acknowledgement of the facts of what happened is in everyone's interest. He's also said that the best way to advance that goal is for the Armenian and Turkish people to address the facts of the past as a part of their effort to move forward. And President Obama, like presidents before him, strongly supports the efforts of Turkey and Armenia to normalize their bilateral relations. So we believe that this is a position that fully reflects the terrible events of 1915, but also is aimed at trying to create a climate in which these two peoples and nations can move forward together.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to run out of time. And no one is correlating with a position against criminalizing speech in this country. No one is advocating that.
But that's what the answer you quoted from was responding to in terms of the question, Congressman. So I just want to make the record straight.
Madam Secretary, I want to keep the record straight, too. Your answer went well beyond whether it should be criminalized. Your answer said this is a matter of historical debate. And that is what is causing so much anguish in the community. And it's not just anguish. There is a very concrete injury, which we saw last week with a tragic Ninth Circuit decision that said that the victims of genocide cannot bring claims for relief under California law because it is preempted by a federal position of non-recognition of the genocide. So let me ask one last question. Is it the position of the State Department that states should be prevented from allowing redress to victims of genocide? Is there a federal policy to preempt insurance claims that victims might bring in states for relief that have suffered as a result of genocide?
Well, I'll take that for the record, Congressman. I'm well aware of the Ninth Circuit decision, and I can only reiterate and underscore that it is certainly the policy of this administration that there has to be steps taken between the Armenian and Turkish people and between the two governments, between them as to how to create a peaceful, productive, prosperous relationship. And that is, in our view, a very important goal to bring about the normalization of relations for future generations of Armenians and Turks.
I have to go on to Mr. Cole now. Mr. Cole.
The Armenian genocide. I am wondering why it is that we do not recognize it as such, and if it has to do with our classification of what a genocide is, or more to do with our relationship with Turkey.
Well, first, one of our great strengths is we do not criminalize speech. I think it's fair to say that this has always been viewed, and I think properly so, as a matter of historical debate and conclusions rather than political. The issue is a very emotional one. I recognize that, and I have great sympathy for those who are just so incredibly passionate about it. But I think the free market of ideas are the proper fora for this kind of engagement, and that's where I hope it is worked out. And eventually, people will have their own conclusions, which needs to be respected, but we need to encourage anyone on any side of any contentious historical debate to get out into the marketplace of ideas, muster your evidence, put forth your arguments, and be willing to engage, and that's what I think should happen on that too.
a genocide was committed against the Armenian people in the early part of the last century. And it should never be forgotten. The Bible tells me as a Christian to mourn with those who mourn and grieve with those who grieve. And so we do today in recognizing that fact. And the families and the loved ones of victims of those terrible events that began more than 90 years ago have my heartfelt condolences.
Most eyewitnesses to these atrocities are dead, but we track down a few that are still alive. As a young girl hiding in a neighbour's house, Araksi Falekian saw the Turks brutally murdering the young men from her village. She was saved by a sympathetic Turkish neighbour.
Perin yesal çocuğum ama herkes kahasını gör çar çocuk nerene amen pan herkes kahasını uremen pereren şişere asbes şişere açkenin gıkoten gör asbes abgıboran sama boralı bak pançika açkenin gıkoten bugün de neden gör gıkoten tasnihin katır da sartlarıp köreren hangi bir tasnihin kadar uğraşpenin sıktırı gızezen gör açkenin meyme açkenin körgenen gör gıbora sıktırı gıçartsını ya meci cezasını şat çarçaran köp tırakları panım meçkiliydi. Yes aynaden pakaceye değme indaniki me ama dacigindaniki meçineyi bahvat. İnçine ma pakarim mamaskmit. Aynaden çorsik tarikan gaye yega panoramar herkes kahasını gör.
Araksi is still traumatised by the madness and slaughter that ensued in the town of Arna.
Yere kor kişer asılsa sebaronin. Yere kor kişer gragi meçen tıslamın sürükün takı turten. Çinçesin ayı yekrin yere sen ayrın gıvaze meço Adana'yın zobu. Adana'yın.
But for the Armenians, the nightmare was just beginning. After the initial massacres, the survivors were then ordered to the Syrian desert in death marches.